Okay, so I said last time that would be our last broadcast using Social Live, but the last New Relic of the year, it really is going to be our last one using Social Live. I promise. StreamYard, I'm coming for you, baby. That little duck, it's going to be my mascot. I have to wait for just a sec to make sure that we are actually getting audio from me. Oh, yes, we are. Oh, rat. Oh, there's audio there. And I bet there's audio over here on Twitch too. There is audio over here on Twitch. I had a whole little script to read to test the audio, but I don't even need to do that. Before we get started, I do just have a little recommendation for the engineers at CrashPlan. I want to recommend sometimes it would be good to run a full system backup, and completely tank your browser's performance. 7 p.m. That would be a pretty good time. 4 a.m. also great. Midnight. I could think of 16 hours out of the 24-hour day when it would be great to run a CrashPlan backup, and I can think of 8 when it would not be that great to run a CrashPlan backup. Just maybe write it down. If there are any of you watching, that's just a little free feature ideas. Don't take my system's performance when I'm trying to do a show. Okay, it's time for the Nerd Log. We have got 2 fun guests this week. We are talking about agent updates. We're talking about APM. We're talking about the core of New Relic, which I love. First, let's say hi to the co-host. Down and to the center. Wait, no, Amir. Down and to the center of the video, we've got Allie. Allie, say hi to the people.
Hi, everyone.
Allie,
happy to be back.
Which we will discuss in segment 2. That's what segment 2 is going to be. Is new haircuts. It's fantastic. So good.
Thank you.
And we have got, Amir, we've got Boo here to talk to us first. Boo, say hi to the people. Tell them what you do for New Relic.
Hi, everyone. My name is Vu. I'm an engineer on the .NET agent team at New Relic. I'm excited to join the show.
Nice. So we're going to talk about some updated changes to the agent. Someone just said in the chat that I do not understand, but I'm curious what it might mean. Gabriella Ford, you said VOA, and I don't know what it means. Okay. So Gabriella, if you want to explain what your comment means, I'd love to hear it. But otherwise, let's talk about. So what is changing about the .NET agent?
So we just recently release a new features in the latest release of the .NET agents. So if you heard of Cosmos DB, we now auto implement all the Cosmos DB call, which is very excited. For anyone that does not know what Cosmos DB is a Microsoft proprietary database. Microsoft, they advertise it as a multi-model database. What it means is it's a one-stop shop for all the popular NoSQL databases. So if you're familiar with like MongoDB or Cassandra, etc., so now you can host those database model inside Cosmos DB, and Microsoft is making a big deal about it. So I'm excited to share. Now we the .NET agent implement all the Cosmos DB database call out of the box.
Yeah, so this is pretty exciting stuff because. So, one of the things that I always try to explain to people when I say and I got to do this bit at reInvent last week is, or if you're watching this several weeks from now, don't worry, you didn't miss anything. I was at reInvent a month ago, 2 months ago, whatever makes sense for you. I promised you were keeping up to date. You're doing a great job. Me and Ali were at reInvent. It was fun. It was in the past. It doesn't matter if you're watching this live. I love you no matter what. But, we can have this basic question of, hey, what is New Relic? Why New Relic? Why? And, I am a huge supporter of things like the Open Telemetry Project and other kind of open observability tools. When I try to explain to someone why you might be using like a New Relic agent and a New Relic dashboard, there's a lot I want to say about the actual service that we do with storing data and displaying it, letting you query it, all that stuff. But I also want to say, the agents do a lot. And one of the big things about them is we have kind of seen all of these libraries come and go, all these systems come and go, and we're able to automatically say, oh, you must be sending a request into MariaDB that is doing this, right? And so this is an expansion of that ability into the Cosmos DB space where we're not just saying, hey, it took you this long to respond with this user lookup. We're saying, hey, specifically, you sent in a DB call. I'm sure we'll be looking at some of the data for that. But that's sort of one of the big things is like why you might want like an observability service is that a mature service should have like a ton of really common stuff auto-instrumented. And New Relic is definitely an example of that. And yeah, so I know that, so Cosmos is entirely on the NoSQL side. It's like you can use whatever syntax, or you can set which syntax you want to support in Cosmos DB. I have not gotten a chance to use it myself.
Yeah, Cosmos DB is just like a NoSQL databases where you can just store any kind of database data in there, and you can just like write SQL to query the stuff. And the thing about Cosmos DB is like Microsoft, they advertise as a multi model, so there are many different kind of
interesting.
Database model. For example, like graph models, which basically MongoDB is using, and also there's some other type of database model, for example, like table database model. Everything together.
Okay.
So,
well, yeah, I've got to check that. Now we do have a question from Creature Next, which is, will this feature be transitioning to the other agents? Now, obviously, it makes a lot of sense for the .NET agent, right, to be covering, right, a Microsoft specific service. But do you know if there are plans to like, for like, Ruby applications that may be hitting the same database?
I don't know much about the Ruby agents, but I'm pretty sure, Microsoft.
We got a strong no from our second guest.
Oh, okay.
Saying absolutely not.
So we do have a message.
Not yet. The answer is not
from
yet.
the Ruby agent, which is we will see you. No, seriously, there's definitely what I would recommend, by the way, if you have a combination of language and framework that you're not seeing auto-answer in New Relic, get in touch with your support people. Or if you're, if you talk every day to your New Relic account rep, get in touch with us. A lot of this is, frankly, what we see people doing. And we do some meta-analysis where we look at like how many people using one of our agents are doing stuff that is suggested that they're using some kind of framework. So a lot of it's based on that. Yeah, if you're looking for a particular thing, you should let us know, and we'll see what kind of support exists for it. Right now, I guess probably true that .NET's going to be a big focus, but I'd love to see this in action. So if you want to get your screen in shape or ready to go ahead and share this, let's go take a look.
And also, just to quickly add, if you have a new feature you should submit an issue on our GitHub repo or reach out to your support team.
Yeah. So I got my start with New Relic support, so I'll always say, hey, support at newrelic.com. Let's start there. That's a good place to start. But the community hub and a ticket on GitHub are both extremely good ways to get those needs docked up. But yeah, let me know when you're ready to switch over, and we'll start screen sharing.
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right, let's send it live. Azure Cosmos DB. We see Azure Cosmos DB.
Yeah, so this is the Microsoft page about Cosmos DB. But if you using .NET app and you want to consume Cosmos DB database, you need to use a Microsoft Azure Cosmos NuGet package in order to set up a client that you can query or create database call to the Cosmos DB database. So the latest .NET agents start to instrument call from these libraries. And let me hop over to my VM and I can show the real demo over here. So I create, a .NET app. It's just a basic, web app. And in here, I created two endpoint that I want to, demo. Um, so there's two endpoint. One is called create cell sample database. The other one is called find cells. So the first endpoint, what it's trying to do is, it just try and set up a sample database. I call it Cosmo DB demo database. And it's also create, something called sales collection. Um, Think of collection in the Cosmo DB world is similar to database table. Yeah, there are some terminology, when you move from, SQL database to NoSQL database that I kind of still learning. So
Yeah.
it's kind of direct map to table.
Yeah. Yeah, and of course, everyone's very proud that they don't have tables, but then it's like, okay, but where do all the customers go? They must go someplace, right? It's like, yes, sort of
Right.
physically they're not on a table, but it is a useful metaphor, no matter whether or not you're using that specific implementation.
Right. Yeah. And this endpoint is create database and create a collection, and in this collection is also trying to create a couple of get back. It's also create a couple of test items.
And Vu, could we get one more step of zoom in the code here? Yeah, there we go. There we go. One more. Yes.
Okay.
I know we're missing some stuff cropped off, but it's so much more readable. We just love it. We love a large print experience for Visual Studio when we can. Okay, this is great. I love that we can. I didn't realize that Visual Studio lets you zoom with just one pane. I guess I'm used to using VS Code because I'm lazy, so I don't have all the advanced features.
Yeah. Continue on. So it create database and table, and also add couple of item in there. And for this specific example, is adding some sales in here. And let me run the app. And here you go. Oh, I forgot to mention, on my VM, I also, install the Cosmo DB emulator to set up the database.
Nice.
So that I don't have to pay for my demo. Okay, cool. So my app is running, and then let me hit the endpoint. Endpoint here is called create database sample. Oops. Yeah, I don't know why it's Googling it, but HTTP. Just gonna copy here.
I have also found myself, audience playing along from home, genuinely confused by the way that Chrome decides, hey, we're going to go ahead and show you, we're going to go ahead and Google this instead of just loading it. Like there's some decision about string setting. It's just not as straightforward as you would imagine.
Exactly. Yeah. I run into this all the time. Cool. So it looks like it's running. And say database created, and then you can go here, and then let me refresh the page. Yeah, you can see the database got created, and you can see create the collection is also added, couple of cell orders in here. I created like 4 orders in general. And let me go back to the sample app. And in here also added another endpoint called file cells. So basically, I'm just it's a simple endpoint that you can enter like a cell ID order number in here, and it will query that cell order and then display information of that cell order to the page for you. So let
It's a
me,
nice little demo setup. This is very, very well contained.
yeah. So let me, yeah, okay, I got it here. Let me try to run. Cool. So it found the cell order number 1, and
Nice.
then it show all the information like purchase number, order date, stuff like that. Cool. And now let's switch to the APM and see what show up on APM. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, we're gonna see data for this query right now. I love it.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see if we can do a step of zoom on the new Relic interface as well. Now, the Relic interface actually absolutely works at like 200% zoom, but obviously gets there's quite a bit more scrolling involved. So that's good. That's good. I think that'll keep. We'll still have visible data without having to scroll too much.
Yeah. So I'm on my staging account, and I can see my app showing up in here. Let me click on it, and yeah, so this is not new data. Yeah, you can see new data is coming in, so we're lucky.
Nice,
Hey,
nice. Yeah.
When the live demo works.
The bravery of live demos. We love it. We love it. So yeah, can we look at like what we're seeing like in a trace? Can we see like a bit of Cosmos DB time in there?
Yeah.
Cosmos DB. I'm having trouble with Cosmos DB. Maybe I need to say it with an accent. Like Cosmos DB.
Yeah. So
nice.
I'm going to discrete tracing tab in here, and I can see the create cell. What is it? Create cell sample transaction from the first endpoint that I hit earlier. Take a look at what is showing here, and then you can see the trace showing up in here. Yeah, just expand it. Yeah, so expand it. Yeah, so you can see all of the Cosmo DB.
Yes. Oh, I love it. Yeah, we see like individual, like actual steps of that. It's not just, hey, this request took so long, but in like, hey, we had to create the collection. We had to get a get back saying, hey, probably the collection is created, and then create document as a separate step. Oh, that looks really nice.
Yeah, that looks really nice. Yeah, you can see all the steps that happen, in that transaction. So you see it trying to read database, trying to create database, and it's trying to read the collection and trying to create the collection.
It's kind of fascinating that the read database is like taking way longer, but that probably makes sense if you're doing like a locally emulated version of Cosmos DB. That's like the 2-second step.
Yeah, the thing is, it trying to read the collection is because it trying to check whether or not the collection exists, and if not, it try and create a collection. That's why you can see the 2-step over here. But yeah, that's what's happened right now. And you can also see, it trying to create a bunch of documents which corresponding to the 4 items that I got created. It got created when I hit the endpoint. Yeah, you can see 4 of the database call that corresponding to those. Yeah, so when you click on one database call, you can see a bunch of information related to
that performance tab is one I always think is really critical because it's great to see on a single transaction. I mean, obviously this is a demo, right? So we're not going to have a lot of other spans to look at, But on that performance tab, you can see how frequently is this request called, or is this span observed, and what's its average performance, right? So right now, of course, it's a demo, right? So we don't have a whole bunch of past ones, but it's very easy when you're looking at a trace or a log span of time to say, okay, it took 18 seconds one time, right? But that was just, we were unlucky, we had other factors or something. But this will really let you see, okay, how often is this called and what is that one span's response time? So that's not a whole request, it's just a chunk of the trace. And that seems like a really key piece of insight that you get from the new Relic interface.
Right. Yeah.
So this is really useful. Obviously, for people who are thinking about Cosmos DB or people who are deep in it and want to get some data on it, this is a pretty key piece. Obviously, this is something where someone could sign up for the free tier if they're a .NET user and they could just try it out. To start with, do you have recommendations for you? I mean, I think it's pretty straightforward. It's automatic instrumentation, right? So get the .NET agent and install it. Update your agent today if you're running Cosmos and you already have the agent installed. But is there other stuff that you wanted to show us, Vu, or other stuff that you thought was important to see with this instrumentation?
Yeah, they're a little bit more. So,
of course.
So for these call, you can see a bunch of attribute that created specifically to these instrumentation call. So you can see the DB collection, and the value is the name of the collection for sure, and you can see the instance name, which is the database name. These you can this is important because you can write a NERD query to cater whatever information you can do like account analysis or whatnot. And beside that, let's switch to a different trace. So I also hit another endpoint that trying to find the cell, not order. And in here, let me expand this. Yeah, so this is the database operation that happened in that transaction. And the nice thing in here, it showed the query that trying to query the cell order, and all the sensitive information is being obfuscated, which I think is nice. Customers don't want to share their sensitive information in here.
Oh yeah, I like this. Yeah.
Yeah, so we capture database query for some query call, and I think this is important so that they can know whether or not their query is performant. And sometimes people just sometimes some query might take a really long time, and they might want to improve the query to make it more performant. Yeah, I think that's it about the Cosmos DB auto instrumentation.
Yeah, so this of course indicates a really critical thing when as we add new instrumentations, the stuff comes in as a first-class citizen. So you're able to do NERCL queries on it, run dashboards on it, and sort of get that full level of detail. It's not like, oh, now there's some new button hidden somewhere where you can look at your Cosmos DB stuff separately from your other traffic and information. So that's pretty key. But I love this. I think that covers it. I think we should talk about the Ruby agent next. So folks, if you're watching on YouTube and you watch this one live, wait till tomorrow. But otherwise, if you're not doing that, which wouldn't make a ton of sense, you should probably look down at the links to the side here and take a look at updates for our Ruby agent. And otherwise, you should watch the Nerd Log every Thursday, except for day when it's Wednesday, and except for the next 2-3 weeks when we're not doing it. Because this is the last Nerd Log of the year, folks. It's a little bittersweet. We've had an amazing year with the Nerd Log. We've grown amazingly. We've done really cool stuff. And we're going to keep doing it for another year. Don't you worry. Sign up for a New Relic free account. check out and get this stuff. We have a free tier for life. So if you're running a little Cosmos DB operation for your own personal projects, for your proof of concepts, you're going to be able to instrument that for life with New Relic. Vu, is there a social media presence, or do you have social media you want people to follow? Or as I always like to ask, where do you want to be found?
That's a good question. That's a hard question, actually.
Are you on Twitch?
No worries. We will put, if you send me some social links, I will put them down in the show notes so that people who are watching after the fact on YouTube and LinkedIn and whatnot will see it. So if you really want people to come check out, your neighbor's GoFundMe or your SoundCloud or whatever else, we'll be able to link to that. Thank you so much. We're going to go to the Be Right Back screen, and we're coming back with Kayla talking about the Ruby agent. Okay, folks. Be right back. Hey everyone, we're waiting just a minute for screen share and permissions and other pieces to come together, and that's part of life, That's part of the system when you have multiple guests on a show. And excuse me, it's something I absolutely love about doing the Nerd Log. I love that we can have like anybody from the org come on, and we don't have to have like 2 or 3 panelists that are always on the show, and that's what makes it fun. And so Kayla will be back in just a minute, and in a sec we'll go back to at least. Oh yeah, Kayla's here.
I'm back.
Let's make my face tiny, and yeah, we're back. So try doing a screen share now. We'll see if we can drop it in.
All right.
And no worries at all. I spent the weekend. Well, boy, I flew back from reInvent, and then I spent one day with my family, and then I flew out the next day to go to San Francisco to film the Uptime, which was fun, but I am a little tired.
Oh my god.
I did have to write a bunch of stuff on my one day, on the Saturday that I was supposed to be spending with my family. I had to go out to my cottage and write some reviews and write some other literature, but that's fine. It all worked out in the end. Let me just change that layout, and this layout is live, and so we'll send this live, and so now we should be showing up for people. Let's see. How's it going? Yes. Hey, fantastic.
Getting some stuff. Cool. When I needed to restart my browser, all my tabs for the presentation disappeared, so I'm just pulling them back together real quick.
Hey, these things happen.
Yep. Indeed.
What's funny is LinkedIn is 6 minutes on a 6-minute tape delay. I think because LinkedIn tries to show you live stuff. When you log into LinkedIn, it wants to start the live at the beginning. So I'm way back in the past. We're in the middle of this demonstration with .NET, but hey, relatively that's pretty good. On Social Live, I've had audio feedback. I've done a whole segment where the guests could hear me, but no one watching the show could hear me. So that was where my funniest jokes happened, by the way, everyone. No one ever saw them. But you would actually, like, looking at the tape, like, everyone would laugh, and I'd be like, boy, that was probably pretty great, but no one ever heard it. So it's just going in the garbage can now. That's great. Fantastic. But that's not what's happening today. Today we're back. We're talking about Ruby Agent with Kayla Riopel. Kayla, say hi to the people. Tell them what you do for New Relic.
Hi, people. So my name is Kayla. I live in Portland, Oregon, and I am an engineer on the Ruby Agent team, which means if you have a Ruby application and have the New Relic RPM gem installed, I get to help maintain this awesome open source repository. It's wonderful because I'm a lover of legacy code and trying to make things more maintainable, and the Ruby agent is New Relic's oldest agent. And so I get to dive deep into like the archaeology of different cultures of Ruby, and also try to make things faster and nicer for the way that Rubyists like to write code today. So.
Yeah, it's a fascinating thing with Ruby, right? First of all, New Relic's relationship, right? I remember back, not while we were Ruby focused, but when the subdomain of the actual like dashboard was rpm.newrelic.com. So it was, at least in that much, it referred, that was for Rails performance management. That was how focused we were on Rails, and how focused like the tech world was on Rails at one point. But yeah, it is a fascinating time, right? We have multiple versions of Ruby out in the wild, and we need to have support for a lot of gem versions, a lot of framework versions, because that's the deal, right? Most people who are using a big giant Ruby application, they have been running it for some time. And so, that makes sense. I saw some stuff in the, state of observability report that said that, like, Ruby is still a massive, massive area for where observability actually happens. For like the most well-observed apps are often in Ruby. So that was kind of interesting to me.
Yeah, that is pretty awesome. I mean, one of the things, so I've been working as a developer primarily on Rails applications, but also a lot of JavaScript applications since 2018. And almost every one of those applications had New Relic or another observability, maybe sometimes multiple APM-related products installed, and leveraging them all in different ways. It's just like part of the practice of development in a lot of this culture, which I think is really awesome.
So one of the things that's wild to me about the time I spent sort of hopping between development shops and working in different architectures is that some of the stuff that I considered so basic when learning, Rails development was just not a part of the standard for other environments. So, things like, hey, I want to have a console for the database so I can test out like these requests and how they come back. Oh no, you just have to go and deploy the code and run some demo requests. Like what? Stuff that I just considered a very basic part of it. And it's interesting, of course, in a lot of ways, right? Rails absolutely took over the world because most web development has very strong resemblance to what Rails development was like. But there are a few things where it's like, yeah, this quality of life thing really is surprising, but it's not everywhere. And when you look at the fact that more than half of all developers use no observability tool, clearly in a lot of environments that's just not standard. They just don't have any idea about how their code is performing in production. So, what is changing about the Ruby agent, this month?
Yeah. So we recently released version 8.2.0 of the Ruby agent. And the exciting thing about this release is that it's including our first piece of new instrumentation, like for a gem that we had not included in the agent before since probably 2017.
Wow.
So we've been focusing on upgrading a lot of other things about the agent, trying to stay up to date with all of the changes happening in Rails and in the Ruby language, and also just with how New Relic's product has been expanding as well. But that meant that instrumentation kind of got put on the back burner. And the Ruby agent team was so robust getting started, and a lot of the same gems that are really core to the community were already instrumented. It fell off the priority list.
And in large part, right, that makes sense, right? You're probably not saying, hey, I'm writing in Rails or writing in Ruby, and I have a hot new framework. It's totally new. You've never seen it before, and that's where my whole application is built, right? So it's probably likely, right? Even if you just finished a bootcamp in working in Rails, you probably will get a great experience out of the New Relic agent. But what is this new instrumentation that we're looking at?
So this new instrumentation is for a gem called Tilt. And Tilt is probably a gem. It was at least a gem that I had never heard of, but I had a vague memory of like kind of seeing it in my gem file lock, which is the file that holds all of your actual versions that have been installed and like the dependencies of your gems and other libraries. So Tilt is been around since 2009. It is a library that's designed for rendering templates in a variety of different templating libraries and languages. So actually, if we could switch to the screen share, I have like a couple of things.
Let's go take a look.
And as we switch to the screen share, we actually got asked a question in chat that I'd love to ask for you. So Creature Next wants to know, what's the best way to get in contact with you, Kayla, if they have questions about the Ruby agent, specifically contributing to the Ruby agent, right before we get started here?
Yeah. Thank you, Creature Next, for asking this question. If you also have the same GitHub handle, I want to say thank you very much for another wonderful feature that was recently added to the Ruby agent, which is a full list of all of the config values that we provide and their default values and what each of them means. So I'm really excited for how that is enhancing like more customers to know about what they can do to fine tune their agent. So thank you for that. To go back to your question, so if you have questions for us, I would really say the best place to reach out, if this is related to a new feature or something about how the agent works, I would recommend going on to the New Relic Ruby agent repo. It's open source, it's on GitHub. We'll just take a look at it right now and submit an issue to us. I think that that's a great place to start, and that's an excellent place for us to communicate. If it is a bug that you're having and you're not sure if it is something that's wrong with the agent or something that could be related to your configuration, I highly recommend you either reaching out to our support team if that's verified with your tier, or going onto the Explorers Hub and asking the community for help there. So 3 best ways: GitHub for new feature requests and agent behavior questions, and then support team and Explorers Hub for bug-related issues.
And I would say Creature Next, also the thing that we are trying to get sort of reignited a little bit is we are running the New Relic users Slack. And so we'll probably see a channel there, agent by agent. Rin, who's so amazing and running our New Relic community, will be looking into that over the next few weeks. So, of course, we all want to have like a nice solid channel, but I do really like the concept of a user Slack, and it lets some other people see kind of what your questions are. So we'll probably see an agent by agent Slack there, which may not have developers from the team, but we'll certainly have support people from each team, and it'll be very seamless for them to like bring someone into that conversation. Yeah. And also, I put it in the Twitch chat, but if you want some swag, Creature Next, just hit me up on Twitter. And I'll either send you some swag, or I'll send you this AWS credit card that I got, which I will never use. And so, if you want either a coffee mug or some AWS credits, let me know. James of the AWS Community Builders team was hitting up these cards, and he said, "So, there's a little accounting mix-up. Each of these cards either has $0 or $500 of AWS credits on it. Here, everyone can have 2." Like, okay.
That's quite a gamble.
Yeah, well, I'll take it. Mm-hmm. All right, so let's get back to talk about this gem. So this gem is Tilt is a way of, if you're writing an ERB or you're writing a markdown file or you're writing some other kind of templating language, or
all of these
language, right?
templating languages.
Okay.
Wiki, you can use CSV, Prawn, which is for PDFs.
Wow. Okay.
YAML SAS, like it does a lot of things, and it's been supported for a long time, and the team is still active today. So that's all pretty cool. Yeah. With what I was saying about how it might be in your gem file, but you might not have heard about it before. The other thing that I found is in this project was that Ruby Gems has an API that includes an endpoint for reverse dependencies. So these are gems that depend on a specific gem. And that showed some much more familiar gems to me once I started looking on there. So is it going to let me show the terminal? Maybe we're going to have to do this elsewhere. Let's try it here. So if we curl this, and we make some text a little bigger. Oh, it's like real big. There we go. And we throw tilt in here. You're looking at, well, first a big list of a lot of stuff, but Sinatra is one of the gems. There are some sidekick gems that are related to tilt, handlebars, a lot of Haml stuff, a lot of TypeScript stuff.
So this is stuff where if you want to install this, you're going to need the tilt library in there. Or
Exactly. So tilt will just be installed anyway if you're installing one of these.
So one question I have, this is kind of like, this is like the cocktail bar version where it's like, oh, this person doesn't know anything about this actual question. It's just sort of, have you considered using a train, right? So if you're using this, right, you're using this gem to standardize to be able to read in multiple different like templating files. Why would we care about instrumenting that? Like, is there some way that like interpreting an ERB or something is going to contribute a bunch to our runtime? Like, is that common? Is that possible? This is always one of the things I like go to sleep and don't worry about. I'm like, yeah, it'll interpret the markdown or the cram down or whatever. It can't take that long.
So that's a great question. That's something that I was hoping to segue into. So thank you very much. So one of our philosophies with the Ruby agent is that we want to instrument the lowest level gem possible. So a good example for this is a library like Faraday, which is an awesome, popular HTTP client. Makes it really easy to make external requests with a variety of different tools. But instead of instrumenting Faraday, we instrument the libraries that it uses to make those requests, like NetHTTP or HTTP client or HTTP RB. So with this case, by instrumenting tilt, we get a little bit extra instrumentation for all of these other libraries down here.
Gotcha.
So this is helping keep the agent, lightweight, more performant, but still getting, that coverage that we're looking for.
Gotcha.
Another big reason is that users of frameworks that aren't Rails, so popular ones that we see a lot are Sinatra and Padrino, we're currently getting no Vue related traces or spans because we didn't have any instrumentation to cover that.
Yeah.
And tilt is used for pretty much every Ruby application besides those that are running Action View. So now we're getting these other applications to be more on par with Rails applications by seeing the time it does take for their views and partials and other things like that to render.
This is actually a question I remember from working New Relic support. It's like, yeah, we really aren't doing much for Sinatra at the time. This was like 2016, 2015. So yeah, this sounds like a pretty major change, especially, I know I've probably been guilty of it on the call using Ruby and Rails synonymously. Whereas really, if you are using Ruby and you're not within the Rails architecture, like this might be a really good time to go and grab a free tier account and just check it out and see what the agent sees.
Definitely, because you're going to get much more transparency now for, the views that you're using, the pages that are getting visited than you would have probably before. And another fun fact, in version 8.1 of the agent, we were able to fix our Padrino instrumentation. So if you've been using a Padrino app, you probably haven't been getting a lot of data since maybe the 7.0 release, but now you should have way more metrics coming through related to your controller actions and now your views. So excellent time to upgrade, excellent time to start experimenting if you like those lighter weight Ruby frameworks.
Look out, Padrino. We're coming for you. We're gonna get some insight into how you're running. So I'm gonna grab this segment. I'm gonna send it out to like salespeople and whatnot and say, hey, go back. Take a look, because I understand, right? As working as a subject matter expert in serverless, right? There's some conversations where it's like, yeah, there's a lot of great stuff here, and let's talk about how to use it. Other times, it's like, look, I want to be realistic about what the agent's going to grab for you automatically, right? And I do think, what our application performance monitoring or APM agents grab automatically is a lot of the New Relic secret sauce on the client side, right? Like the way that we let you break down data and the dashboard is great. But what the agent grabs automatically is part of the secret sauce. It's funny, it's not secret anymore because they're almost all open source agents. But that's part of the magic, right? And so if you're not getting that, it is tougher for me to say, hey, you got to use this, right? So this is going to be really big for people who are in that state. So yeah, I'm gonna be checking in and being like, hey, go reach out to these people. And chances are, if New Relic didn't support it natively, there probably weren't a lot of other great options out there. So let's take a look and see what we can do.
Yeah.
So what else do you want to show us? Do you want to show us some data? I mean, that's
yeah. So no, I'd love to. And I'd love to just chat a little bit about this like process that we went through.
Oh, yes.
Trying to figure out how to add instrumentation for the first time, because all of the folks on the Ruby agent team right now have not been around since 2017. So we were trying to figure this out from scratch, and using, old PRs and things like that. Now we did get super lucky in, kind of streamlined in that there's some really big things that are going to be coming out, probably related to logging soon. And you can see right here that the first one that we've rolled out is related to metrics. And so now you'll have a metric that will show how many log lines are being recorded, by your applications. And we got to have Ruby agent alum Jason Clark generate this. So a lot of the Ruby agent was written by him. He was there in the earlier days, working on the agent for I think about 5 years. And he created this great PR for us where, he added this new instrumentation for the Ruby logger so that way we could generate those metrics. And that helped us, get to this first stepping stone for instrumenting Tilt. And I recommend, checking out this PR if you're interested in instrumentation and wanting to see more about like what it takes to add it piece by piece inside of Ruby. The next big thing that we had to figure out was what it was that we wanted to instrument. And in this case, we got really lucky that Tilt, the way that it's structured is that it has all of these other classes that inherit from this templating class. And the template class has a method in it called render, which is required in every single one of these. I mean, fortunately, this is a really simple library, and I think that's why there are so many templating languages that can support it. But we only realized that we needed to instrument just this method to get all the information we needed to be on par with action view related instrumentation.
And this is something like, this probably kind of explains how, right, it's like the basic structure of the Ruby language, why, performance monitoring was sort of possible earlier on, is that if you can find something that's required every place else, right, you can get pretty deep data with just a little bit of added instrumentation.
Yep, indeed. And, other benefits with Ruby being, possibly the first language that Lou was experimenting with here is the ability with metaprogramming to kind of rewrite methods at runtime and hook into the very beginning and the very end so that way, we can set up timing and other things in the agent. So that's what we did. So we grabbed this render method, and if you look in here, we're going to bring this down right now. This is our main Tilt instrumentation entry point. We're right now alternating between using 2 different strategies in all of our instrumentation. Module prepending, which is where you add your definition of a method. This is a really hard thing for me to explain out loud because I feel like I'm probably going to get it wrong, but just going with it. When you're prepending something to a module, you're saying which order you want to load first. And so by adding this, we're saying, hey, whenever the Tilt template class is loaded, you know what, actually just sneak our New Relic instrumentation in there first. And if we happen to have a method named the same thing, take ours first. And then we'll use super to send it back to do the regularly scheduled programming.
This is so, Ruby was the first language I learned. And when I was seeing this like super chaining, I was like, it was presenting me at the time, what I'm sure I was reading a text that was intended for like experienced programmers who are now like moving into the Ruby language. This was the last time I would read a programming book without reading the foreword first. But it was like, oh, you'll see what's happening with this. And it was a code very much like this. And I was like, no, I don't understand. Yes. And it's like, oh, like this makes sense. I was like, no, I don't know. And I do not think I've really gotten any better about class inheritance or about method chaining than I did then. But yes, I to me what your statement sounds exactly great. if you're a mega meta programming nerd in the chat, keep it to yourself.
Or message me directly and give me some great resources, because I'm learning metaprogramming. As a Rails developer, I was taught no monkey patching, like use the convention over, like follow the configuration. And now working on the agent, I am having to reprogram my brain and really get used to diving into these methods and trying to make them do different things, because that's how this magic all works.
Yeah.
So yeah. And then this other one, chaining the instrument, that's the more traditional alias method chaining that we're keeping around, while we're still supporting older Ruby versions. We hope to eventually move entirely to module prepending. So then we have this chaining structure to hook into our instrumentation, the prepend option, which is, where I was telling you, oh, hey, we're jumping in on this render method, and now why don't you call our own stuff and then go back to the original? And now here's our instrumentation itself. So we created a metric that is going to mimic what you're seeing for action view. We learned in Sinatra, because it uses something called caller locations, which is a method on kernel that uses your full file path for your machine, where everywhere the other gems that we were testing this on, we're just using more of a relative path. So this was kind of our trick for figuring out how to get that file name. Great example too of how with the Ruby agent, because we want to be as lightweight as possible in these other applications, sometimes we have to write things in a way that looks really weird and maybe doesn't make that much sense. And so what we're doing here is we're actually taking the file name and splitting it by all the slashes and just grabbing the last two items in this string and then putting it all back together. There were other things that we wanted to try that were actually using, the file object that Ruby has that's really fabulous to find the proper nesting. But it was just too slow for our agent. It was going to bog it down too much, creating too many objects. So we got to go back to just regular old string and array manipulation.
Here's the classic, uncertainty principle question of observation, right? You want to observe stuff, but you cannot double your call time, right, to observe it, right? You cannot take as long to observe something as you do to do it. So you have to be a little more performative than that.
Mm-hmm. So if you're looking through the Ruby agents code and you're seeing some things, like we do a lot of shoveling of strings to concatenate them, it's just so much faster than using other methods. So it's going to look ugly, but we're just needing to break that mold to keep our footprint light. And then we figured out that the main thing we needed to do was to start a segment, catch our errors and finish it up with this metric. So those are the nuts and bolts of how the new instrumentation works. Any questions before I move into demoing on a couple of different apps?
Yeah, let's take a look.
Okay, cool.
I don't think we have questions in the chat. I'll double check. No,
Sweet.
We're good. We're clear.
Awesome. All right, here are my many terminal windows for us to go. We do a lot of programming with playground applications. And so, kind of rapid prototyping has been part of my new world. I joined the Ruby agent in July, so that's another good piece of context. But yeah, so let's first.
So you, like I, have never truly seen the Portland office. It's just a theoretical Xanadu off in the distance.
I actually, part of the reason why I really wanted to join New Relic was when I had first moved to Portland for my first programming job and went to a Women in Tech event at the New Relic office and was I grew up right next to Mount Rainier, and being able to see multiple volcanoes from my workplace was pretty high on my list of dream jobs.
Yeah.
So I've seen it, but not in
I do not know what the future holds for that office. I was in the San Francisco office, and the San Francisco office is recently remodeled to hold more people, right? 2.5 years ago, right before the recent unpleasantness. And so I do not know if it will be in the future 10 desks and a mini golf court or what. I don't know what is going to happen in that space. It seems hard to imagine, hey, we're going to be packing them in like sardines still, So it is funny to think about, isn't it? But anyway, let's look at some demo stuff. We don't need to be nostalgic.
we'll first jump into the Rails application and see what we can expect from, or what our baseline was, and then we'll take a look at some Sinatra and just like a pure rack-based application to see the differences there. So I'm gonna spin up this Rails server. Let's just spin up all the servers. Or I guess we can just spin up 2 at a time. Well, that might be easier. All right, so we'll go to localhost 3000. Get to see this beautiful blogs application. What should we call our blog?
Blog.
Blob.
Got it.
Blah blahs, the Canadian grocery store.
Oh, all right, let's edit it. Blogs, like that?
It's LAWBLAS. Blah blahs. There might be an H somewhere in there, but this is for our Canadian audience.
Wonderful. All right, great. So now we'll have some.
We've updated.
We'll have some stuff. All right, let's go to our rack application now. This one we don't have any post 1992.
I'm lost.
I'm lost. Yes. So this is a super lightweight rack application that I designed to just render some views that all had similar content. These were the books that I could see from where I was sitting. So this is the Haml version, which is one templating library. This is the ERB version, which is like Ruby's built-in templating library. Here's
Do you have a volcano view?
Do I have a volcano view?
Yeah.
From
your templating versions?
I don't, but that would have been great. Oof. Next time. And all right, so we'll spin down our tilt application now because we should have some things. And we will go to, we lost our Sinatra. Go to Sinatra. And spin that fella up. And so now this is a new website. And I think this one has a Haml. Yep, and it's a nested Haml. So that'll be a fun one to look at too. All right, so now we're going to go to the staging page and see what we have in our applications. There are a great many applications on here. Let's just filter this down to the Ruby agent test. You can see we have lots of things, fun things we're testing. And we've got some data over here. So let's take a look at this Rails 6 application. This was our blog. We've already got some traffic back, so that's great. We wanted to use this as our baseline since we were trying to make some on-par instrumentation. We hop into the index and we look at this view. Now, the views rendering doesn't show up by default, but when you turn on your in-process spans, you will get to see when you scroll down through all of these other calls that there is this index HTML ERB view that rendered, and then also the layouts application view, which for those of you who don't use Rails, it's a pretty common like wrapper view that holds the base layout for your page. And then this would be, yielded to it. So we wanted the metric to make sure that it looked pretty similar with like the file path and view and rendering. We wanted the attributes to be pretty similar, which here, they're all pretty standard attributes for a span, nothing too fancy. So now let's hop into, actually we can just duplicate this, our Sinatra app and see how that goes.
The bravery. I can't believe we have 2 segments in a row where we're sending requests live and trying to look at data live. Oof, love it.
The agent teams, they go for it. Yeah,
the uncertainty principle cuts both ways, folks. So it's like, look, if you have a lot of requests, on a production application, New Relic's going to give you great data about it. But that desire to be like, hey, I'm going to send you 1 request, and I sure hope you instrument that one perfectly the first time. It's just asking a little bit more of a set of tools. But look at this. Look at these beautiful trays.
So here we go. We have our tilt template. We get to know what kind of template it is, which was something we wanted to add since there are so many different libraries. You can see your path and you can see it's rendered. So
we get it's a Hamel template, or I don't know if you say.
Yeah. I think it's Hamel.
It's British actually. Say HAML. HAML is actually the way you say it now.
Hamel.
I feel like pronouncing anything that I've only interacted with on the internet is always a little perilous.
Hamel.
Yeah.
I repeatedly said, I think in like episode 2 of the Nerdlog, that YAML was yet another Markdown language. And there's now like people who are trying to change what that acronym meant. I'm like, no, thank you. That's what I learned. And that's what
I love that.
is. They went back and edited the wiki to say, oh, YAML stands for something else. Like, no, that's fine.
Spicy.
I'm not gonna fight with you on Wikipedia, but yeah.
You know, the commit, as long as they didn't squash their commits, like we can.
That's right. That's right.
You can just choose which place you look at.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah.
So we're looking at attributes here too.
We're looking at attributes. We're seeing really similar attributes here, but now for a Sinatra application instead of for just what was being created with Action View.
Oh, and by the way, I didn't read the question out live, but on LinkedIn we did get a question that I absolutely love from Ernest Torra, who asks, "What are you doing?" I tried to answer the best good on chat, but if you have more detail for that question, Ernest, I'm happy to answer it. But really, I could be helped by just having a sidekick on everything I'm doing who just sends in chat the question, "What are you doing?"
Yeah,
so
yeah.
My response will always be, nothing. My best. I don't know.
That's a great answer. Yeah, I think I need like a Slack bot that just like messages me every like 30 minutes. What are you doing? Because the amount of times I dig deep and need to like come up for air is quite common.
Oh my God, yes.
All right, and then we have one more app that we tested out, so we might as well take a look at that too. And then we can dive in a little deeper to the, we wanted to duplicate the nuances of the different templates. So let's have.
And folks, as we step through this, I'm gonna go step away and use the restroom because that's Nika's life is that I'm on camera for like 3 hours straight. But my little square is just gonna go black. I'm not gonna disappear from the layout.
But I'm here.
But Allie's here and Kayla's here. So don't worry, you're still safe. Okay, there's not some giant tidal wave sweeping across the U.S. because Kayla and I live in the same city, so it's fine. You're safe. Stay alive, no matter what occurs. Let's look at this. Let's look at this next application.
All right, so this is our tilt application, and we so we can see this transaction. Let's go a little different route this time. We'll jump into our transactions, and when we're looking at the application call, so we can see these segments are for these different templates. You know, they have similar names, which I did on purpose. I wanted to make sure that we could render things similarly. But you're seeing the tilt Hamel template, the tilt ERB template, and the Sling template.
Perfect.
So, yeah, you can see each of those. You can see the name of your template. In this case, you know, because it was a really basic rack app, I didn't bother nesting them inside of another directory, so they're just straight up right there. And now you can find out about your timing for these segments inside of your overall transaction.
Oh my God, you could see such a big difference just between the three, no matter how basic they are. Really makes you think.
Right. Yeah, you can see each one takes a little bit different amount of time. So this could also be used if you're trying to, you know, maybe settle a dispute with your coworkers about what is the optimal templating language for our application, because that's often a heated debate, is whose favorite templating language is which one. And this might be a good strategy to settle that. So, and then there was one other tilt. Are we still running that tilt app? Nope. Let's spin it up one more time because I wanted to show the nested templates too, which was a fun like added feature. So I think if we go to blog here, so we see greetings from layout.haml. hello from body.haml.
Oh yeah, this was a commonly requested thing. Was like, hey, you're getting template render times, but you know that's just the wrapper template, and it's the internal thing that has 27 subpieces. That's what's taking so long. We're not getting that time. So if we're getting nested templates, that's really good.
We're gonna get that here. We're gonna get that with Tilt. So because I didn't load that up previously, we're gonna have to wait a little bit before it shows up. So any other questions about like, you know, the Ruby agent or instrumentation or?
So I do want to mention again, if anybody's watching along from home, oh my God, One Ring Through Them All says that they are actually in the office right now looking at volcanoes from the Portland office. So
Thank you.
know, good for them. Way to lord it over us. And also, One Ring Through Them All. Sorry about your home life. What is it that's making you commute when you could just work from home? I guess not everyone can have a beautiful cottage built in their backyard, which is where I work from. But you know, to get started, you know, I don't think there's very much to say about getting started, right? You know, install the Ruby agent, you know, sign up for the free tier for life, especially if you're working in a dev environment or you're working on contract and making kind of small applications. I think that's, you know, really worth doing. I encourage you, if you're doing that, to explore synthetics along with APM. So, you know, instrument your stuff from the inside, right? You know, getting an agent to give you really deep data. Create a synthetics component that's going and pinging your site, and not just pinging it, oh, it's up or down, but giving you real data about how the page is performing and how the whole system is responding. That inside and out monitoring is gonna go a long way to get started. I guess one thing I'd be curious about is, do you have any advice for people who want to upgrade the agent, who maybe are running an agent which, you know, let's be honest, they might have installed 4 years ago on their system? Are there any kind of well-known problems or advice you give for that process?
So fortunately, the Ruby agent has really prioritized documentation, which was something I wished I knew when I was a developer using the tool. But if you go to our docs website, actually, I have this bookmarked because I use it myself to get information about the product as I'm learning about it. The release notes. You know, you can find tips about how to upgrade incrementally here. And then we also have some specific upgrade paths for our major versions. So, you know, if you're running on version 6, which is really common, we can look for upgrade 6x to 7x. There we go. So these migration guides are really helpful. And I would recommend checking them out and following them through. And if you have questions about any of them, reach out to us on GitHub and let us know what is confusing. So yeah, 6x to 7x, you know, the big changes there is that we start to introduce our prepend instrumentation. So there's some known gems that we have that conflict with that strategy. So you might need to do some upgrades to your configuration to make that compatible. And then if you're on version 7, we have another migration guide. And with that one, it's just really the main breaking change is that we updated our add method tracer API to use module prepending instead of alias method chaining. And if you are passing arguments to that, you just need to do that a little differently now using a proc instead of just parentheses. So
yeah, and that was a pretty significant change, obviously, but it is well documented. I think if you're on that upgrade path, I guess that's probably what I would say is that if you know it's been, you know, years since you updated the agent, take a look at the documentation first.
Yeah.
And we're gonna have a great guide for you. And frankly, a lot of this gem updating stuff is stuff you should have done a while ago, right? You know, we're not trying to make your life harder, right? But you know, probably these updates are reduced, or probably not in too rough a shape. Ooh, I see a second spike.
I think we have it. Yes.
We have something to look at.
I'm
so amazed. I have never willingly gone into a demo without like the Julia Child method of like, I've got some chopped onions over here, right? And then I've got some browned onions already. Because it does take 45 minutes to brown onions, folks. So, you know, but I appreciate the bravery. Let's take a look at it.
I definitely had chopped onions from 24 hours ago, but we didn't need to open this
relief.
So here we are. So we were looking at, we can see right here a separate segment for layout.haml, then for the body.haml rendering. And then if we hop on into distributed tracing, which I hope is on for this application, it might not be. It looks like it isn't. We would have seen two different traces.
Yeah.
Turned it off here because we have been testing our recent switch, which is another big benefit that you're going to get when you move to version 8.0, is that distributed tracing is enabled by default. So you'll get more detailed information about the behavior of your application broken down into separate spans.
So, folks, distributed tracing is not a term that's familiar. It's not a New Relic idea, right? The Open Telemetry group also supports a bunch of other people do, which is the idea that instead of looking at a trace that's just the time spans for that one application, is let's look at that all together, all the components, including hopefully things like the load balancer and every other piece. Certainly every actual compute function that was grabbing your request is going to show it all together. So DT was switched off for this one, but it is great data. You do take a look at it. Yeah, maybe we got some old distributed traces.
Yeah, let's see if they're still valid from last week. I was thinking, but I would really love. Yes,
the croupier's ready to take our life savings. Come on, autofocus. Here we are. I'm here. I'll lean in. I'll do the there we go.
Nice. Yes, but if folks have, gems that they really love and they want to see instrumented that aren't instrumented, please send us your requests on GitHub. We are focusing on instrumenting more new gems. We hope to release a new one, a couple of times a year, probably one every quarter. The next one on our docket is going to be Action Mailer and the Mail gem. So you're going to get some instrumentation on sending and receiving emails. And we'd love to know what else, you want to see monitored by your application.
I love that. Is there other stuff that you wanted to show us, Kayla? We've gotten a really nice tour of this new instrumentation, but is there other stuff you thought was really important to cover before we close up shop?
I don't think so. I think that's the main stuff that I wanted to share today. So
Kayla, last question is, about social media, about your presence. And we ask it is, where do you want to be found?
I want to be found. I suppose I have a blog that I keep up intermittently on Dev2. Please go ahead and look for me there. And that's probably the best place to find me on the internet. Out of the internet, you can find me in Peninsula Park, probably hanging out with the roses. So
nice. I like that. I'm going and following you now on Dev though. But I personally would like to be found chopping like hardwood with a splitting maul. On sort of a moss-covered patch in the forest is where I would like to be found. But sadly, you can find me on Twitter at serverless_mom. You can also find me at serverlessmom on TikTok, where I make a lot of TikToks about, I have a bunch of drafts about an orb that I saw being constructed on the Las Vegas skyline. And I don't know anything about it, but it terrifies me. And I just can't stop thinking about it. And I could only ever see it from my hotel room. And anytime I left the casino or went anywhere else, I could not see the orb. The orb was only visible from one location. But I do have photographs. So that's my hope. Now, Allie, where would you like to be found?
I can be found at Ending with Allie on everything, including Minecraft. I say it once, I'll say it again because it's such a good line. But Twitter is my main platform, so definitely check me out on Twitter if you just want to see unhinged tweets.
I love it so much. All right, folks, check out the Nerdlog on Thursdays next year. 2022 is our year for the Nerdlog. I'm going to get some more chrome teeth before you see me. So these ones that are the old, porcelain and enamel, that's out. That's out. More chrome before you see me again. And so we'll be starting on right at the beginning of January with new episodes of the Nerdlog. Do check it out. Follow us at Twitch at @new_relic, or as so many of you do, check us out on LinkedIn Live. Thank you again for our LinkedIn Live viewers who are absolutely justifying my job. It's great. I love it. Do check out the Uptime on YouTube or whatever other social channels you're on, where we do fun little bits about observability news. And otherwise, thank you so much. And we'll be seeing you soon. Thanks, everybody.